Hello there. Welcome to another episode of the Break It Down for Brackens podcast. Today we get to hear from John Sheehan. John has been a member of Bros and Bras for about 2 years, and he's going to tell us some stories from his past and what he likes to do for fitness and which Bros and Bras outings he likes to go to. This podcast is sponsored by Brackens Painting. Brackens Painting is a commercial and residential painting company that I started about 9 years ago. We specialize in meeting people's expectations and their schedule needs. We try to help get projects done as efficiently as possible. This podcast is also brought to you by City National Bank, which you'll hear the City National Bank commercial, which is recorded by Melissa Knott, my banker, at the end of the podcast. So I hope you enjoy. Let's listen to what John has to say. Hello, John. Thanks for being on the Break It Down for Brackens podcast.
Hey, great to be here.
Awesome. So John has been a member of Bros and Bras for how long?
I think a little over 2 years.
Okay. How did you first hear about us?
Well, to be honest with you, my wife is deaf, to be honest with you, and she has a cochlear implant, and that's the only way she can hear. And she was at the grocery store and Food Lion, and she ran into Angie, who also wears a cochlear implant and is hearing impaired. So she told Bonnie about it, and it became friends on Facebook. And she said, "Why don't you all come out? Because we're avid walkers." And so we went up to the Black Dog Walk was our first walk, and naturally, as soon as we crossed the road there to walk, Angie takes off running. So Jack stayed with us and walked the whole walk with us. So we did about 2 or 3 miles, I think, and came back.
Okay, cool. So have you lived in Jefferson County for a long time? Tell me a little bit about you and Bonnie's background.
Well, we got married pretty young. She was 21, I was 24, and we've been together a long time. And she grew up in Beltsville, Maryland, and I did too. And we eventually got married, and I had a small house in Beltsville, and we started having children, and we decided to move out to the country, Carroll County, Maryland, Woodbine.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2. My daughter was the oldest, and my son is the youngest. But it was kind of a traumatic year in that we had the house for sale, and that Bonnie had severe problems having the baby, and so our little daughter was 2 pounds 1 ounce at birth, and she went through a lot of. And so the first night I left the hospital, they told me my daughter probably wouldn't make it through to the morning, and that my wife might pass also. But in the end, everything turned out all right, and I'm thankful for that. It makes me appreciate children and special needs children a lot, and my daughter has no problems and doing great, so I'm very thankful.
Was that at the same time you moved to Carroll County?
Yes. When my wife and daughter in the hospital, we got a contract on the house in Beltsville so we can move to Carroll County. So a lot happened that year. It was 1983, and that was a traumatic year for me, and that my father had cancer and passed away that year, and we moved that year, and the stuff with my daughter. So it was quite traumatic, but we made it through. So I'm very thankful.
So you live in Carroll County now?
We moved after our kids finished, and my daughter was finished with college, and my son was in college. We decided to move to North Carolina, and we lived there for 7 years. We never really liked it that much, and decided to come back to the area. So,
what part of North Carolina?
Near Hickory, North Carolina, a place called Granite Falls. It's right in the foothills of North Carolina.
That's a nice place.
It's pretty for sure.
Yeah, I've been down there a few times. So I had no idea that Bonnie was hearing impaired. I didn't know that at all.
A lot of people don't know that, but she basically, when you have a cochlear implant, you're completely deaf in that ear. If you take that off, she can't hear anything out of that ear. She started having problems when she was about 20 or 21 years old,
Okay.
and it just over time it digressed, and she had an operation when she's about 24, 25, and they replaced stapes in her ear, and that worked good for about a year, and then it's just started going downhill. And from then on, it was hearing aids after hearing aid after hearing aid, and it got to the point when we moved to North Carolina that she couldn't talk to our children on the phone or anything. It just really had gone down that bad.
So she was connected through Angie. She knew her from.
She just ran into her from the store, and I think when people wear cochlear implants and you see another person with a cochlear implant, it's automatic.
They're in the club.
They're in the club and they're gonna talk to each other. And nice. Angie's such a great person. She really is.
What do you remember what Angie said when she first encouraged you guys to come out?
I think when she was at the store, she got Bunny's information, so they'd become friends on Facebook, and she told him about Bros and Bras. And not right away, but shortly afterwards, we came out there on a Saturday through Angie's encouragement to come out there and walk. Now, so that's how we initially got involved in Bros and Bras. And I love Bros and Bras. It does so many good things. And one thing I like about Bros and Bras is it's not, I guess I'm part of the older generation per se, but there's young people middle-aged, and people that are older. There's people that run, that walk, that, do all these things. And we support, and I'm glad we support the local businesses like Black Dog and the pizza place, the Abolitionist Ale, and other small businesses.
Back in the beginning, John, like if you've been involved for 2 years, I've been out of it as the leader for 2.5, almost 3 years now. I think
right,
maybe 2 years. But back when I had tons of free time and the businesses that I was running were pretty much on autopilot, I had this really neat vision for Bros and Bras to help to make it a economic driver in the community. So there weren't a ton of businesses that were really thriving over the top downtown. There's a couple of restaurants, this and that. They just weren't, there were some retail spaces, but nothing was really awesome. And I thought one of the best things that would encourage a smart business owner to come downtown would be foot traffic. There just wasn't a ton of foot traffic. So we started to have events that started in the downtown Charlestown area. And all of a sudden, anybody who might be cruising by, you saw 5 to 10 to 20 people kind of jogging or walking around, and it created the illusion of foot traffic. And it actually became consumers on Main Street when they may not choose that as a venue to run or walk. And then I don't think you were around when we had the actual headquarters downtown, right?
I think it was coming close to being an end down there.
That was literally a Bros and Bras clubhouse that we would stage numerous events out of there. And we wanted the Black Dog event on a Saturday morning was our flagship. That was our big one. And then that folded over into the farmer's market. And then when Ann created a second run, that was also Black Dog, but we started to have events that started at Grandma's Diner with the intention that people would go into Grandma's afterwards for the same model we had set at Black Dog. And the abolitionist one, and then there was at one point there was a Skipper's run where you get ice cream afterwards. That was short-lived just due to we were overdoing the calendar. At our peak, we had 55 events in 1 month in June.
Wow.
Yeah, and that lasted all summer long in the high 40s. That many events per month was incredible. We also had like the economic driver of supporting businesses. We had scavenger hunts where all of the businesses knew we were coming, and you had to hit like all these checkpoints, and the checkpoints were inside of a retail store that you may not have gone into, maybe an antique store or be vintage or Dish when it was still open, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that drew a ton of awareness from our population into what businesses were actually downtown and that you could go to.
Right.
We even had something called a poker run, which we called it the broker run, naturally.
Right.
And you travel around collecting cards, and then we went into Dish before it became Sumitra, and we whoever had the best hand won whatever raffle prize was donated to the event. And
That's
it was
cool.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. So like that was back in the heyday when I had a ton of free time, and then the painting company hadn't expanded the way it had, and the plowing company hadn't been up and running yet. But that was glad. And I'm glad you appreciate that, because it is important for us to be in these businesses. And
Right.
somebody mentioned to me one time, Bros and Bras were all at a Ragnar or something. We were all out of town on a day that we were supposed to be at the farmers market.
Uh,
People pulled me aside and they said, it's obvious when Bros and Bras aren't here. Like
right.
it misses a certain amount of volume. So it's nice to know that we can move the needle. And I really like that about the group.
And I love the farmers market when we do that for the summer months, and also too the walks that some of the people do during the week, as far as the Charlestown uh, kitchen grandma's walk, and then the walk in Harper's Ferry that
John,
Doris does.
I've lost track of really what's active on the calendar, especially from the Jefferson Activities Group, which would be the JAG, and you being primarily a walker. Tell me about what events. So like the grandmas, if I remember correctly, the grandmas started off as like a stroller walk where moms
Right.
would bring their kids and then grandmas would push the strollers or whatever to the park. and that fizzled. But so that is a Tuesday mid-morning, right?
Right. I always can't remember if it's Tuesday or Wednesday, but it's one of those 2 days. And the Harper's Ferry walk is the other day. So
I think Wednesday might be the Harper's Ferry, which I've never even been to that one.
Yeah.
But tell me about Tuesday, because I know somebody in the group has taken the lead on where you guys go, correct?
Correct. I think Sandy normally determines where we're going to walk that day. And I love Sandy and Mike. She's such an inspiration, the way she runs and everything. It's just incredible. I know she's had a little bit of health issues here recently, but she's great to be around. And Dolores normally does the Harper's Ferry walk, and we always mix it up where we walk. So it's nice.
So for the grandma's walk, just for context, how far do you guys usually walk, and where do you usually go?
We go all over Charlestown, really. Sometimes we walk down to the park. Sometimes we walk up toward the Civic Center and the gardens and all that stuff up there, and just kind of walk around town. It just depends on the day where we go.
Is it a fitness walk or a casual walk?
That one is it's more casual, but a little bit toward the fitness side. And I would say the Harper's Ferry walk is more casual type of walk.
So I've never been to the Harper's Ferry one. Is that the one that meets at Country Cafe?
Yeah, we meet at Country Cafe, and we just take different routes all the time when we do it. I can primarily just do these things in the summertime because I do work from September to June. So, but Bonnie, when she's not babysitting my grandson, she participates in those walks. So
that's great. Who are some other characters that you see at these walks? Call out some of the people you see there on a regular or even randomly.
Well, of course, on the Thursday night Abolitionist Ale, we see Bacon and Jack, and we see a lot of other people, Amber and Scooter and Jen. People don't always go there every week per se, but they show up continually. Joe Runner, He's there, Tom
Wow.
Dabrowski. So it's
So
a
to
lot
some
of
extent, you go what, 3 days a week? August 40. I see you on Saturday sometimes also.
We definitely do 2, and during the summer I try to do 3. But then Bonnie and I probably walk on our own another day or 2 a week. So we try to get. Our goal is to try to get 9 to 15 miles a week walking, and
That's really good.
And when we walk, we're not the casual la da da walkers. We walk to get exercise. So
Fitness.
Yep, absolutely.
Sure.
And Bonnie and I, throughout the years, and when you have kids, it's hard to exercise sometimes, but we always like to go on walks. And when we moved down to North Carolina, for those 7 years, we did 5 miles every single day. And we could just walk within the neighborhood there. And we had this dog with us, and we had to go up this big steep hill. This dog was on a leash, but he would get to a certain part on that hill. He comes to a dead end stop. He's not going any further. I have to carry him up the hill every day, but it was worth it.
That's funny.
So when we move back here, we're still walking, but it's really nice to be part of a group, and not only the exercise, but the afterwards having, coffee with someone afterwards, or getting coffee at the market in the summertime. So we definitely enjoy talking to other people. And
what was your expectation of the group before you showed up? I mean, it's got to be kind of nerve-wracking, and I don't remember when your first day was, but when you're showing up to a kind of a group, running group or whatever, you got to wonder, what are they going to be like? What did you think it was going to be like, and then how did it turn out?
I was just hoping we'd get some exercise, just kind of checking it out the first time to see what was going on. And the one thing, of course, it's the slogan of the group, but it really meant a lot to me, no judgment, no expectations, because the majority of the people are runners, but I've never had anyone go, well, gee, you just walk or whatever. And sometimes people say, hey, can we walk with you today? And, it's all good. I really enjoy it. And then no matter whether you're running or walking, you end up back somewhere, and you can have coffee or tea or whatever you'd like to drink. So it's good comradeship. I love it. Yeah.
That's a very good way of putting it. Comradeship. So did you have any aspirations for fitness? Did you have any goals that you were working towards?
Just to stay fit and active, and I've been athletic all my life. Unfortunately, when I finished 9th grade, I was 5'4" and weighed about 96 pounds. And by Christmas at 10th grade, I was 6 feet tall. And I was so uncoordinated, it was like I didn't know what to do with my body, because I'd always been active in baseball and everything, and in basketball, but I was so uncoordinated that it really took me about 2 years to get it back. I would say to close to 11th grade. And I had a friend in high school, and he was really into basketball, and we played all the time. And I could have probably been on the high school team if I chose to my senior year, but I figured for 1 year they're not going to want me. But at that time, I was playing against the best people in PG County and Washington, D.C. I was playing the all-met people, and, so we were pretty darn good playing basketball. And so and then later on in life, I played competitive basketball till I was about 35. I played football till I was about 35, and that was touch and flag. And actually, it was one of 2 white guys on the team, and we also did something. And that team played mostly in D.C., and it was from people that went to Anacostia, D.C., tough part of town, and we went to the Turkey Bowl, and we were the only two white people out of about 10,000 people, and it was pretty cool.
Right, yeah. Well, you were hanging in with those athletes.
Yep.
So, have you done any races since you joined Bros and Bras? Any of the local, like Harper's Ferry or 5Ks?
Well, I've done a few 5Ks, and I would like walk most of them, and maybe like run the last half mile or do something like that. And then we did several 5Ks. Also, too, volunteered through Bros and Bras to help out at some of these races and stuff like that. So we definitely like doing that for sure.
So, John, how old are you?
I am 68. I'll be 69 this year.
Okay.
And,
well, the last race that I remember doing with you being there, and
right.
correct me if I'm wrong, was that the Ranson Mile?
Correct. Yep.
That was a doozy. First of all, that run is like a fist fight. If you're racing, it's real aggressive, very fast, only 1 mile. But you had some challenges there. Tell us about how that went down. What did it become?
Well, I would say like the first couple months before that race, I've run a mile before. Actually, I ran a mile the year before, but this time I was trying to do a better time. So Bonnie and I have been doing the Black Dog Walk, and we run a third, walk a third, run a third. And so we did that several times before that race. So I get about a third of the way through the race, and I'm feeling really good. And then all of a sudden, man, something went really wrong with me, and I wasn't sure what it was. And I sat down on the curb for a while and thought, man, what the heck's happening to me? And then probably I walked about another third. Then I threw up, and then I basically almost passed out before the finish line where you saw me. And
what did it feel like?
I just felt so weak. I couldn't really do anything. So I was
blood sugar maybe, or
no, it wasn't my blood sugar, but I just felt really dizzy, and I think I was losing it mentally a little bit as far as just kind of out of it. I was really out of it. So
was it a heat exhaustion kind of thing? It was a little hot that day.
Well, they took me to the hospital. Dr. Mark took a look at me, and he's a great, great man. And I had to end up spending the night in the hospital. And Dr. Mark, who didn't have to, checked on me about 3 or 4 times while I was there. But basically, my heart was just pounding so fast, they had to find a way to slow it down. They finally gave me some medicine about 11 o'clock at night, and finally calmed my heart down. But I wasn't really sure. But they changed my medicine about a month before, and I was thinking diabetes medicine. And I was thinking maybe that was it. And I wasn't really sure. But all that summer, I felt bad all summer. I could barely walk. And we went on vacation in North Carolina, and I had to walk like not even a half a mile. And I could just barely do it. And so when I got back, the doctor said, hey, we're going to take you off that medicine and put you back on old medicine. So that made me feel a little better initially. And like I work for the school system, so about the last week in August, I went back to school. First week, the kids come back from school on that Friday. My legs are twice the size of what they normally were. And I going like, so the doctor thought it might be medicine related, but I kept feeling bad. And so about a month later, in October, I had severe pain in my stomach, and I ended up going to the emergency room there in Ranson, and they discovered that I had I had prostate cancer and I had a kidney stone. So the kidney stone is really what drove me to the hospital. So blessing, really. And the prostate cancer, at the end of the day, that's what was making my legs swell up severely. So I basically couldn't walk from June uh, to the end of January of this year. So, uh, and I'm just thankful that I'm doing well. So
Well,
I'll
can I
never.
ask you questions about the cancer?
Yep.
Because I don't really know anything about prostate cancer. And is it treatable? Is it chemo? I mean, I just don't know. How's all that go?
It's really not treatable, and it depends on what stage they discover it in. And unfortunately for me, it was stage 4, which is the highest stage there is. And the first doctor told me, he says, you only have a year or two. But after I after they did these scans and all this other stuff, they found out, hey, I might get another 5 or 7 years. I might get 10 years if I'm lucky. So that's what I'm going for. So I am. It's an incurable cancer. There's nothing they can do to cure it, so to speak. So I get a chemo shot once a month in the stomach, and then I take 2 chemo pills every day. And but I feel so much better than I did, the previous year, that I'm thankful to be where I am. I can put up with a little stuff from the medicine and all that other stuff to, because I can walk again, and I feel good most of the time, and I'm thankful that where I am with my treatment and with my numbers at this point, and I just got to hope for the best. So, and I have a great 2-year-old grandchild that I live for, and it was always my goal, even before I was sick, that I wanted to see him graduate from high school. So that's still my goal.
That's great. You know, I'm trying to wrap my head around it a little bit, but when a doctor says 2 to 3 years, or even 4 to 5, or even another decade, I mean, don't we all just have 2 to 3 years? Nobody even knows what's around
Right.
the corner for anybody. I mean, anybody could have any illness that gives them a timeline, So it's. I guess from time to time, people just get reminded, hey, your time's coming, right?
Right.
And you can say it to anybody without even. It's a perspective, I guess, is that you can live your life not thinking about it, or you can live your life appreciating all the time you've got now.
That's what I told Bonnie. Make the best out of my best days. So that's what I try to do, and I try to be positive. I never missed a day from school, even though I could barely walk. I always went to school and helped out the kids, and I love doing that. And that's one thing. There's a lot of teachers in this group that are in bros and bras, but the gut check of someone telling you only got a year or two, I'll be the first to admit that, man, it was like I was crying, but I, said, hey, I can't let this stop me one way or another. I got to keep going. So that's always my thing. Put one foot in front of the other and keep going and do as much as you can. So that's what I try to do. And
Well, I'm proud of you for having that view. It's a really positive view, and I like that positive point of view. For some reason, I didn't find out about your cancer until way later, and maybe I just wasn't in the loop. But is that something you weren't sharing with people, or had you been sharing it?
I shared it once I found out, but when I went through, like, from May to October, not knowing what was wrong with me, you had that party for bros and bras at that house, and it took all I could to walk from where the cars were parked up to that house. I just barely made it, and I was like wondering, how in the hell am I going to make it all the way back to the car again? But that's how bad I was feeling at that point. So And I think I even talked to Jenny that day, and I said, I just want to know I said, there's something going on with me. I want to know what's wrong with me, whatever it is. I just want to know. So it was, Jenny was very good talking to me that day.
That's good. I assume Dr. Martin knows your diagnosis.
I don't think he knows my cancer diagnosis, and I meant a couple times to drive up there and talk to him at Two River Treads and tell him how much I appreciate him and how he looked after me. And he's a great guy and a great doctor and believes in health. And I was even gonna I talked before I got really sick there that I was going to go to one of his sessions about diabetes, and because I've been a type 2 diabetic since I've been about 48 years old. So that's
Well, we're really fortunate to have somebody like Dr. Mark in our pocket, to have him as our roommate at our headquarters, at
right.
his store, basically. I imagine there have been other people in our group that have had some sort of diagnosis or scare, like it could
Right.
be something. And even the scare diagnosis would come from a doctor. Dr. Mark has had a lot of other ways of looking at scary diagnosis and stuff like that, and helping people see the potential for them to continue on with their fitness lifestyle. And we can always look to people like Beth McConaughey and how she adjusted some things in her life and was able to beat her Crohn's disease. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that being active and fit within your ability is definitely helpful.
Yeah.
Nutrition, maybe.
And when I was like they operated on one of my legs to get the swelling out of it. So I was on a cane for like 2 months. They took out a vein and it grows back on its own. So it did get rid of a lot of swelling that was in my leg. And so my goal was to walk a mile by the end of January. So we went to the Abolitionist Ale, and Jack walked with my wife and I for a mile.
So the cancer continues to make your legs swell?
Not at this time, but there's still, I have a soreness in my legs that I never had before. But you know what? Keep walking. That's what I do. So Bonnie and I, we probably did about 8 miles last week, and we can walk in our neighborhood here. So.
Well, I hate to ask simple questions, but like, does stretching help?
Actually, I really haven't done too much of that. And, I told you I'm a big walker, and early in my life, I never really liked to run all the time. You could ask me to do 100 football sprints in one day, and I'd do them all. But for me to walk continuously for a mile or 2 miles, it just wasn't ever my thing, really. Not that I never ran per se, but I definitely like walking faster better than running.
Right, but I mean, so is it possible that the pain you have and again, I have no idea about cancers or any of this sort of stuff, but is it possible that some of the pain in your leg could be buildup of lactic acid that could be massaged out or anything like that, or a circulation issue that you could do certain kinds of exercises that would alleviate some of the swelling or pain?
I guess really I'd have to maybe look into that and see if that's a avenue for me to make my legs feel better, because sometimes at the Black Dog I do 3 miles no problem, and then this last weekend we did 2 miles at Black Dog, and it was all I could do to do the 2 miles. Like the last half mile really hurt, but I finished it and I kept going. So that's my thing. I'm just going to keep going.
Well, that's the thing. I always try to be pain-free running. I try to, and every once in a while I'll have some little pain in my knee or a pain in my ankle or in the bones in my feet, and I want to figure out what it is that's I guess impinging or cramping or whatever it is. And sometimes it's dehydration, like I don't have enough water in my system.
Right.
Um,
I've been trying to drink more water every day. That helps.
yeah, and I imagine Dr. Mark is just an incredible resource, and maybe he's seen this 50 times and you don't realize it. And
Right.
because he's there, and I'm sure he's very busy with all the COVID-19 challenges they're having at the hospital, but I'm wondering if there's something that could be worked out in your legs to make you feel 2 times better than you might feel on your rough days. It'd be something to look into, John, really.
I'm definitely, when some of this stuff is over, I'm definitely going to try to see Dr. Mark to see what I can do athletically to make me feel better, make my legs feel better. I think you'd be a great resource for that.
And I don't want to get all like weird, but what about have you tried meditation or yoga?
I have done that in the past, and I probably should do more meditation. I really haven't. I've never tried the yoga, but I did do meditation for a while, especially when I was even really young. So I was like 18, 19 years old, and did karate at a certain point. It was all kind of spiritual things with the body and the mind to be at peace. And one tidbit of information that some people don't know, but I went to the original Woodstock in 1969. I was kind of a hippie and a anti-war demonstrator, but
wow, that's really cool.
And I had long red hair, but that's.
I actually went to Woodstock '94.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
I went to I guess it was the 25th anniversary or something like that.
Yeah. Sure was.
That's cool. That was my version of Woodstock. I definitely wasn't at the crazy. Jenny's father was there though. Yeah. Are you still there? Did I lose you? John, you seem to have frozen. Hello? John? I'm going to pause recording.
Right.
So we're recording now.
Okay.
So you were at the original Woodstock. Jenny's father was at the original Woodstock also. What do you remember from that?
What I remember was we'd gone there and we bought tickets, and we'd gone there because we heard Bob Dylan was going to play there, and he hadn't played for a couple of years. So that's the main reason why we went. And when we got there, we left. The concert was like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing, and we left on a Wednesday night, and it took us almost till Friday morning to get to a parking lot that we could park at, to leave our car, to walk to the concert. And we didn't miss anything on Friday or Saturday, but Sunday we did miss some things. But it was just like so many people. And lucky for me, my mom made some fried chicken for our trip because there was nothing to eat there whatsoever. And, so we had that and some beer. So that was about all we had for nourishment. So finally on Sunday, it just got too much. They got so hungry that we bailed.
Wow. I've seen some documentaries talking about how that went down, and that's just an amazing. That was an amazing event. I had some other questions for you, but they've slipped my mind on our technical difficulties there.
But I've had some cool things happen in life, and I'm very, I'm always trying to think forward and think positive. My childhood was kind of rough growing up. My dad was a World War II vet, and think today they would say he suffered from PTSD, but he definitely had that. And he was, just by luck, he was also Golden Gloves boxing champ in Washington, D.C. And, he definitely, we had a rough household there. And then my brother was 3 years older than me, and he caused some problems for me too. But I made it through childhood, so.
Through college?
I I always admired people that, like, from the time they're 5 years old, they know they want to be a fireman or do this or do that. And I never had that inkling. And I got to be a senior in high school, and I'm thinking, like, something's going to come to me, something's going to come to me, but it never did. And so I could have gone to the work at a printing place after high school, but that wasn't my thing. So I thought, well, I'm going to go to community college. And my parents didn't have a lot of money at the time. My brother was already in college, so I went to community college, which I paid for myself. But I was working like 60 hours and part-time jobs to keep my stuff going. So about a year and a half into that, a friend of mine said, "Hey, the phone company is hiring people at night to work in the computer room. Do you want to do that?" I said, "Sure." And so
computer room. What year was that?
That was 1970.
So what did a computer room look like then?
Had these tapes that spin around, had these little round discs, and it didn't have much memory in it whatsoever. And so that's what I did. I ran what they call a 360/30, and later on in life, it's an IBM processor. And later on in life, I went to a computer museum at the Smithsonian. That was the first computer that they had walking into the exhibit. I'm going like, oh my God, I'm old. So I was always like into technology and all the latest in technology until I retired in 2002. And then I just said, man, I'm not learning. I just got an iPhone like about 3 months ago. So, I mean, I've been kind of anti-technology ever since I left there. So, but I always worked in computers there. I did project management for computers. And it took me, I think I started out that, I was working at a phone company and going to school. It took me 4 years to get a 2-year degree. And then in my 40s, I thought, man, I better get a degree. So I got a degree, and then I got a master's from GW in project management. And
So how old were you when you finally went to school?
I was in my 40s, so I want to say like 44. Got my master's at like 48, and then I kept working there, and I was working in high-speed data communication equipment at that point. And then 9/11 happened in 2001. And so a lot of people don't know it, but the highest communications equipment in New York City was right next to the Twin Towers. So all that equipment had to be replaced. So that was my last project, was getting all that equipment replaced for the World Trade Center
in New York.
Yep, in New York. Yep. So that was the last thing I did for them. And the reason why I left then was I was still guaranteed my health benefits if I left then. So I said goodbye and I took my health benefits and hit the road. So.
And that was in 02.
And that was 02. And I have nothing bad to say about them per se, but it was one of the happiest days of my life, my last day with them. And then after that, I thought, kind of like my Woodstock mojo came back in, and I thought, I want to do stuff to help people. So I substituted teaching, was thinking about teaching technology in the schools, but they weren't doing much with it back in 2002, 2003. So I said, I'm not going to substitute forever. So, and then I knew we were getting ready to move to North Carolina. So I delivered beer and sold beer for Budweiser for
about 15, 16 months, and that'll put you in shape for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then when we got down to North Carolina, I found a job with United Way for 7 years down there, and I'd help people doing financial counseling. And naturally, they had the housing crisis back then, so I was a HUD certified counselor to help people try to stay in their homes. So I think that's going to be another thing we're going to be facing after this coronavirus, is helping people stay in their homes. So that troubles me. But there's nothing that can happen to you financially, no matter how bad it is, that can't be overcome. Whether it be through bankruptcy, through some kind of plan that the government has, some kind of plan HUD has to help you overcome the trouble that you face. So it's just a matter of perspective. And some days doing that job, it was really sad. By the end of the week, you see a lot of people in financial distress, and but by Monday I was recharged and ready to go again and help people with their problems. I got some really nice letters from people because I showed them the compassion that I have for people, and the compassion for, oh, you're a loser because you don't pay your credit card. No, that's things happen to people that you can't really stop. Sometimes credit buildups over a long period of time. Sometimes people have medical issues. Some people lose their job. They get another job, but doesn't pay what the old one used to pay. So there's lots of different reasons. I believe most people don't wantonly not want to pay their bills, but it's because something bad happened. And being with United Way there, we would work with other people in the same agency that work with abused children, primarily men that beat their wives and that kind of stuff. So you see a lot of sad stuff sometimes in the United Way, and how they divvy out the money in United Way, it's kind of hard to say, hey, well, this group needs money more than the other people. They all need help. So it's kind of hard decisions that people up top have to make. But and then when we came here to West Virginia, I worked at the hotel at Charlestown Casino for about a year because, Kevin, I cannot stay home and do nothing. So it's like I got to be working or doing something. So, and then
speaking of staying home, the Jag Walkers were the final group of bros and bras to stop seeing each other. You guys were diehard before social distancing became mandatory. What are you and Bonnie doing to entertain yourselves at home? And then I guess another question would be, what positives have you found from staying home?
Well, it gave me an opportunity to do some of the things I've always wanted to finish up in the last year or two. And I've done all those things now. So now Bonnie and I, we definitely enjoy our walks. We definitely enjoy each other. We'll be married 44 years this year. And it's, she's really been great to me. That's all I can say, all through the years. And then, she's just always been there for me. And sometimes I think people in marriages, they struggle sometimes. And we did struggle too sometimes. But at the end of the day, if you can find a way to make it, it's really wonderful. And I think, a lot of mistakes men make is that they're busy doing this and they're busy doing that. And my only question to any man would be, when's the last time you went on a date with your wife? And because you need that interconnection, I don't care if you got kids or not, or what have you, you need to have some one-on-one time with your spouse. And that's my advice to married men of today is, have that time with them. And everything doesn't have to be an extravaganza. You don't have to go to the movies and go to dinner and do this. Hey, just get a bucket of chicken from Kentucky Fried Chicken. That wouldn't be where I'd get it from, but just go out to a park and have some time together. I think it's important. So
Jenny's really good at making me do stuff like that. We both get in a very busy, very busy cycle. So yeah, I get it.
yeah,
I get it. I've found that it turns out that I enjoy cooking.
oh yeah, I love
So
cooking.
I've started cooking a lot more at home. With all the restaurants only being carry out, I like to go out and experience where I'm at and be in the community and stuff like that. So I'm not really interested in much carry out. So I've been doing a bunch of cooking, cooked a brisket for the first time.
That's great.
But I also define Brackens painting as essential. So we're fortunate that I can keep a few guys employed and keep trucking. You saw
That's
our
great.
truck over by the library we were painting. Luckily, we'll have that wrapped up tomorrow. But what was interesting was I started that the day that the quarantine officially started, the significant lockdown. That job was slotted to take 5 to 6 days, but I was the only painter. So I've been there like 18 days trying to get that darn thing finished. Yeah. But I'm enjoying more time walking around the yard. Jenny's been working from home for I think almost 6 or 7 weeks now. She's been home for a long time. That might be an exaggeration, but she is now not being forced to do the commute.
Right.
So she has a ton of free time, and she just folds that back over into more work and more training. But yeah, I'm not sweating the quarantine too hard. I do miss a lot of the opportunities to do fun things, but that's just where it's at. And then, believe it or not, having Jenny on the podcast as one of the guests has been really delightful for me also. It provides a new medium of communication. I get to know things about her that I didn't necessarily know before.
Now, was Bros and Bras a co-idea between you and Jenny, or was it,
Oh boy. Bros and Bras was let's see. I don't remember what year it is, and people always correct me on what year it was. I want to say it was 2014. Jenny, Bill Young, me, Joey Delgado, and a few other people did our first Ragnar. And that was Jenny's very first big race. Like she'd done a 5K. And that Ragnar was in the spring before Jenny's first Freedom's Run. And at Freedom's Run, we were meeting Bill Young and Jenny and Joey and a few other people at the starting line. And if you've been to the starting line, it's a big mob scene. There's three races heading in different directions. And it's hard to know where to be, and it's hard to find your friends. And these particular years, it was our first time there. We didn't know where to congregate. I said, it'd be really cool if we had a flag. And Bill had been a part of a running group either in Arizona or in Texas, and he talked about that a lot. And I was like, it'd be great if we opened up our own running group, but it has to be a lazy group. You can't take it too seriously.
Right.
Bill was all down with that, and Bill was a really, really, really good runner back then. He needs to up his game a little bit now. But the Bros and Bras concept was originally established to be a sponsored team for Jenny and her girlfriends to go run 5Ks or do fitness competitions together and stuff like that. But she didn't necessarily like what we were putting together in the plan. So I said, well, then I'll just start my own running group and I'll go do it. And I just wanted to get in shape the way Jenny was getting in shape. So it wasn't totally a co-concept, but she's been the unofficial vice president the entire time. And she, she's everybody's cheerleader. She is the bra actual. She's, but really it was part Bill's idea, part my idea. He had experience being in a running group. I didn't really have that kind of experience. I did have experience in building fitness communities. Bros and Bras is the fourth generation of the concept. We had one up in New York City and one in Philly and one in Arlington. And they were all drastically different. But Yeah, Jenny is she's an integral part of the group, but when it came to the business operations and behind the scenes, that was pretty much all me.
I've always thought that when I go to the doctor, I tell them about bros and bras. Or I think when we go to the doctors, we can get the word out to the doctors saying, "Hey, we got a running walking group here that you can participate when you want to. No official membership per se, but just get together with people and get out and do some exercise." Because I'm sure these doctors see a lot of people that need to turn their life around a little bit and get some exercise in their life in a fun way and a good way. So
There were some doctors that were pushing bros and bras. I know Dr. Didden down at Community Ministries pushes us all the time. But people have arrived over the years from doctor prescribed, get out and walk, go see bros and bras here in the community. Right. Sometimes they stick with it, sometimes they don't. There is the Rotary and Bros and Bras. I'm a Rotarian, and we were working together at one point where we were co-doing a walk with a doc. Have you been to any of those from the farmers market? So they start 1 hour after ours. So I think it's a 9 o'clock start or a 9:15 start. Same place we do. So you can go out and do a walk or whatever, come back, get a burrito, cup of coffee, and then they walk down to the park and sit under one of the shelters for half hour or so. And it's just a Q&A with a doctor. Talk about sleep, talk about ankle injuries, talk about recovery, talk about cancer, talk about all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And these general practitioners walk with you and just healthy walk, healthy talk about health and wellness and stuff like that. So that's something you should check out. But yeah, for a short time, there were some doctors who were mentioning coming out to Bros and Bras. I think you're talking about healthcare reform, and that's a heavy topic, man.
Yep. So I mean, the group's been great for Bonnie and I. We really enjoy it. I have had some interesting things happen to me in life, and I'm going to relay one of those stories to you.
Yeah.
But we're in North Carolina. They have terrible food there. At least the part we lived in, they had terrible food. We had to drive like an hour and 15 minutes to get some decent Chinese food. But they opened up a little pizza place near us, and what they already had there previously was really bad, and this was like really, really good. So we got some pizza there, and it was like, oh yeah. I said, so this is like 3 days later. I said, Bonnie, I'm going back there. I'm going to get a sub or something. Do you want something? So I went in there, and lo and behold, my son had been in the Marine Corps. He was still in at that point, and I had his Marine shirt on. And there was this, my food wasn't ready yet, and there was this older guy sitting at a table, and he said, Semper Fi to me. And I said, I really appreciate the Semper Fi, but it's my son and not me. So he opened up to me and told me that he was a Vietnam vet, and I told him, I said, I was really sorry how you guys got treated when you got back from Vietnam, because they were basically hated when they came home. And, so I told him I appreciated his service. And so he started talking to me more about the military, that he was in the Navy now. And, he used to be in the Marines. And I'm going like, that's kind of funny. But then he started telling me, that the military life isn't an easy life, and it's hard to keep a marriage together when you're in the service like that as a career, and it's hard to spend time with your children like you should in the military, and he got a divorce, and he wasn't happy about that per se, but he had 4 daughters and a son, and so his son decided to follow in his footsteps, and he joined the Marine Corps. And so and he was telling me that when he was in Iraq, in Fallujah, and they were going house to house, and his son was killed in Fallujah, Iraq. And I said, I don't know what to say to you, sir. I said, I am really, there's no words that I can express to tell you how sorry I am and the love that I have for you and your son. And so he was asking me about my son's military career and his aspirations at that time, and he was giving me some good hints on it. And at the end of our talk together, he says, I want you to do 3 things for me. I said, I'll do anything for you, sir. And he said, I want you to tell your son about me and my son. And the second thing, I want you to tell him that you're proud of his service and that you love him and that you shouldn't have bridges between you and your son, because he said I had bridges between myself and my son when he died in Fallujah. And I tell you what, I bawled like a baby, really. And it had a big impact on me. But that's something for today's parents, you know. Tell your children you love them. Tell them you're proud of them. That's an important message for any parent. So,
Did you tell your son?
What's that?
Did you tell your son?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. And I cried when I told him that time too. And it was definitely a life. I mean, why he picked me in a pizza shop to tell me his story is just something I'll never forget.
That's pretty heavy.
Yep, it was real heavy.
Wow.
But and then, you know, we need to appreciate all our service members. And like right now, you know, when 9/11 happened, no one thought of firemen being in that light like cops today. And now with this coronavirus, all the nurses and doctors that are putting their lives on the line for us, it's, you know, important that they know how much we appreciate them, really.
We do.
Yep.
We do. Well, John, that's really good advice. It's these challenges of being quarantined and the economy kind of shutting down, and it's really giving people perspective on what's important, and opening those lines of communication is definitely a good advice.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, one final question, and this would be about the Bros and Bras community and kind of your perspective on it. What do you think something you and Bonnie might say to somebody who is nervous about coming out? What kind of message would you tell them, that what to expect or why it's a good group?
I think the main thing is, you know, just it's a fun way to exercise, whether you're running or whether you're walking, and to be with people and be able to talk. And, you know, not only for young people and middle-aged people, but, you know, I think there's a lot of seniors that could benefit from coming out there and walking and getting a little bit of sense of family, because I do feel, and that's something I wouldn't tell somebody, but I do think there is a sense of family with the Bros and Bras and all the people that I do appreciate in Bros and Bras. No one's ever said an unkind word to us, and everyone's always upbeat and positive. And it's really hard to put into words, but, you know, I also don't see a lot of people trying to hit on other people or all this other stuff. It's all been good, you know. It's people.
Do you ever walk with Sarah Thompson?
I'm not sure if I have or not, really, but
She has a very loud barking dog she brings with her.
okay.
Well, she is on podcasts, maybe 6, 7, maybe 10, somewhere in that range, one of the newer ones, right after Carmen. And she had a really great perspective on what Bros and Bras was and why it behaves the way it does. And, you know, everybody has certain political leanings, and she's an advocate big time. And she loves to be vocal about people who aren't getting a fair shake. But she said the reason why we all behave and we're all so kind to each other is because we're joined in fitness, meaning that because we went out and jogged or ran hard or walked, jogged, or just walked the dog, by the time we all come back for coffee or at the end of the event, we are joined in that labor together.
Right.
It hits a reset on people's positions. Instead of being one side of the aisle or another, or red or blue, or black or white, we all get reset to we've all just gone through some fitness together.
Right.
And it creates a free environment. And it warms my heart when people answer that question in Bros and Bras, because I didn't build it to be what it became. I built it as a method to just get me in shape and to show some accountability to get me out running. What it turned into as a community for people and what it's doing for people is genuinely about the people themselves. You and Bonnie and Sandy and Mike and Amber and Scooter and everybody we could mention. You know, there's probably 60 regular weekly people that are out there just being positive.
And, you know, fitness and getting together afterwards, it's all fun. It's all good. And I think people treat each other with respect and leave all the other stuff out the door. So it's always good to get together and be with everyone. I definitely enjoy it.
Well, that's great. John, thank you for sharing your experience with Bros and Bras, and thank you for sharing an update on your health challenges. It's really good to know, and it's good to know from the horse's mouth, if that makes sense, rather than just kind of from what people have just heard, that kind of deal.
Right.
That's important to us. And like you said, we are kind of like a family. We're all looking out for each other. And if there's things that you and Bonnie need, or if there's anybody in Bros and Bras that's struggling, they should know that they can reach out to the group. You know, there's no shame. There's no judgment, you know,
right.
But there's no expectations also.
Right.
And thanks for sharing some of your stories and insights. I really appreciate it.
All right, Kevin. You have a great one, and say hi to Jenny, and you have a great day.
Will do, bud. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
This podcast is brought to you by City National Bank in Ransom, West Virginia. I am Melissa Knott and manage both of our Jefferson County locations. Our Charlestown location is located on George Street in Charlestown, and the Ransom location is located in the Potomac Marketplace Shopping Center. City National Bank is a full-service community bank that provides an array of financial services. We offer a range of free checking accounts and savings products for both consumer and business customers. City National Bank offers competitive low-rate and low-cost lending products for both business and personal needs. Come and talk to me or one of my team members and get products and services that are tailored to fit your schedule and help you to achieve your financial goals. I can be reached at both the Ransom and Charlestown locations. Check out our website at www.bankatscity.com.
Today's intro song is called Mean in a Good Way. It's written and performed by Peter Clark off of his album Peter Clark After Dark. Peter describes this song as being the best song to learn hula hooping to. Peter is an avid hooper and recently started a hula hoop repair business. If you ever need hula hoop repair, consider contacting Peter. You can reach him on SoundCloud. Just search Peter Clark After Dark.